The first thing you notice is the chilling calm in Todd Winkler's voice as he talks to the police, almost too controlled for someone whose wife had just died. But his story doesn't hold up. It never did. This is a case of a man who used his charm and manipulation to mask the sinister truth. A man who murdered not once, but twice, leaving a trail of deception and death in his wake. Todd Winkler, a decorated former Air Force fighter pilot and a successful pharmaceutical executive, seemed like the perfect family man. He lived in a picturesque neighborhood in Cameron Park, California, where the streets were lined with airplanes as much as cars, the kind of place where Todd fit right in. He had money, a good job, and a seemingly happy family. He was a man who had it all, but the truth was far darker. Rachel Marie Winkler, his wife, was everything he wasn't: compassionate, vibrant, and loved by everyone who knew her. A mother of 3 young children, she had a beauty that wasn't just skin deep. Rachel was the kind of person who lit up a room, the kind of person who made life seem worth living. But behind closed doors, Todd's charm wore thin. The couple had been growing apart for years. Rachel confided in her friends about the strain in their marriage, about Todd's lies, his manipulations. "I've realized that Todd's a pathological liar," she said in a phone call just days before she was killed. It was the last time her friend Brandy ever heard her voice. In the months leading up to her death, Rachel's fear of Todd grew. She had found out about his past, about his previous wife, Catherine, who had died in what was officially ruled an accidental fiery car crash down a mountainside in Georgia. Todd had claimed that the crash was just a terrible accident, but Rachel began to see something darker. She knew Todd had once suggested staging a car crash for insurance money. Her suspicions mounted. She was afraid for her life. And in one last desperate moment of clarity, she decided she was leaving him. On the morning of February 27, 2012, Rachel's worst fears came to fruition. Todd had come home that weekend, and they had an argument about the children. She was ready to leave him. But what followed was a brutal, calculated attack. Todd claimed it was self-defense, that Rachel had attacked him with a pair of scissors. His story was that they had fought, rolling on the floor, struggling over the scissors. He made it sound like some kind of epic battle, but when the police arrived, Todd was calm. Too calm. He pointed them to Rachel's body. "She's dead," he told them. When the police questioned him, Todd was surprisingly cooperative. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't show any signs of distress. His story was that they had fought, and when he got the upper hand, he stabbed Rachel. But there was a problem with that. Rachel wasn't the aggressor. She was a tiny woman, 110 pounds soaking wet. Todd, on the other hand, was over 240 pounds. The only fight here was her desperate attempt to defend herself from a man who was determined to kill her. The evidence didn't match Todd's story. The way Rachel's body was found, the multiple stab wounds to her neck, the lack of any injuries to Todd's hands or arms, it all painted a picture of premeditated murder, not self-defense. But this wasn't Todd's first death. It wasn't even his second. Rachel's family would later learn that Todd had been married before, to Catherine, a woman who had died in that mysterious car crash years earlier. The similarities between the 2 deaths were eerie. Todd had been the only witness in both cases, and in both cases he stood to gain financially. Rachel's father, Don Hatfield, was forced to take on the role of caretaker for his grandchildren, the children Todd had orphaned in one night. They were young Eva, Ariel, and Alextu, young to fully understand why their mother wouldn't come home. Don had to explain to them that their mother was gone, forever. "Mommy, don't leave me," Eva had cried in the days after Rachel's death, the words haunting Don as he painted her face, as he tried to hold on to the memory of his daughter in his art. As the days passed, the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. Todd had a history of bizarre behavior, psychiatric episodes, and manipulations. He had once been hospitalized after a breakdown in the Air Force. His colleagues had witnessed his strange outbursts, his obsession with samurai culture, his belief that he was a warrior. He had faked illnesses at work to gain sympathy, even claimed to have cancer at one point. And now, his erratic behavior had turned deadly. But it was the way he spoke, the way he reacted in court, that convinced everyone that he wasn't just a man with psychiatric issues. He was a cold-blooded killer. During his trial, Todd erupted in a strange outburst, shouting something incomprehensible. "You are not samurai, you do not speak truth, you only want to destroy." The courtroom was frozen, everyone unsure whether it was an act or a genuine breakdown. Either way, it didn't matter. His words, his behavior, only reinforced what everyone had already suspected: Todd Winkler was a murderer. As the trial progressed, the details of Catherine's death were brought to light. It was no accident. It never had been. Catherine had died in a fire, just like Rachel, but no one had ever questioned it. Todd had claimed that Catherine had been speeding to the hospital, but when police arrived at the scene, they found something strange. Todd was unharmed, with no visible injuries, while Catherine was found burned alive in the car. The investigation had been sloppy, and the truth had been buried, but Rachel's death brought it all back. People began to ask questions. The jury deliberated for just 5 hours before reaching a verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. Todd Winkler was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison for Rachel's murder. But that wasn't the end. Catherine's family still fought for justice, still believed that Todd had killed her too, but the authorities weren't willing to reopen the case. Todd Winkler may have been convicted, but there were still questions left unanswered. Was his second wife's death truly an accident? Or had he done the same thing to her that he had done to Rachel? And what about the children? They would never see their mother again. Rachel's legacy would live on in the memories of those who loved her, but her children would be raised without her, a tragic reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of a perfect family. As Todd Winkler sat in his cell, the truth about him became undeniable. He had killed before, and he would likely kill again. If you found this story chilling, don't forget to subscribe for more true crime tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Share this video, and help spread the truth about what happens when manipulation turns deadly.